afternoon and welcome to Newsroom Weekly Review, your Middle East U.S. Entertainment Weekly Review. I'm Chella, here every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern if you're new here, bringing you your weekly review highlights. I'd like to thank Currency 365 for last Friday's airing. The weather is nice here as we're approaching fall, one of my favorite times of year. I'll be spending some of my time this weekend at the fair. Now getting into Shafak News' highlights. The Prime Minister of the Kyrgyzstan region's government reported Mazhar Barzani announced today a round of negotiations with international companies to extract and sell region's oil. Barzani said during his participation in the town hall program, which was broadcasted on satellite and media channels, that the issue of oil and gas is often talked about by many and has become a question for them, explaining that the permanent Iraqi constitution is text of what is happening. It is the responsibility of the Kyrgyzstan region, and what is the responsibility of the federal government? And we believe that the Kyrgyz regions, based on the legal readings concluded by the experts, has fulfilled its duties and carries it out as it is, and has not granted itself any authority more than the rights stipulated in the Constitution. He added, oil extraction is divided into two main files, one of which relates to the companies that came and made investments in order to extract the oil, and the second relates to the sales of oil, and some other companies have concluded contracts with the regional government to sell the extracted oil and return its revenues to the government. Some of the numbers that are being calculated, and they are absolutely incorrect, because everyone who has come says that this is the price of the barrel of oil, and as long as this is the price, then the revenues of the Kyrgyzstan oil amounts to this. That is not true, and the companies that produce oil have their own cost, the cost of extraction. Barzani continued to say that the Prime Minister of the Kyrgyz regional government reminded that the region's shares was cut off by the government of the former Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi, and said, I do not hide from you that the federal government cut the entire shares of the Kyrgyzstan region from 2014 to 17 and did not send any amount of the budget to the region in any way. After cutting off the region's shares, this means that this would not relate at all to the region's extracting oil. No, in the contrary, the budget was cut and the oil was produced and its production rates reached a level that could help the Kyrgyz regions. During this period, the region had to borrow some of the money to distribute salaries and the implementation of functions and works of these companies with loans. And this meant that the companies buy oil in advance, and then the government of the region compensates them with oil, and this is exactly what happened, and the interest and price affected. Therefore, the price of the region's oil is still a little lower than the rate that people think it should be. He explains that if the federal government adheres to the principles of the federal constitution, and different agreements can be reached with the region on this issue. Accordingly, I can say that now the agreements are being reviewed since the cabinet's being in its task. We have reviewed all the agreements with the oil companies with them again. The Ministry of Natural Resources talked with them again about how to reduce the cost of oil and reduce the life of the fields, and on the other hand, with the companies that buy oil. I had talks again, so we will achieve a lot of success. And there is a significant reduction by companies, and this means that we will be returning a large part of the revenues to the KRG after these changes. And these are the points of reforms that have to be made in this sector. And then Baghdad Mwanzi News reported the Ministry of Finance Public Debt Department, in cooperation with the Central Bank of Iraq, announced today the issuance of construction bonds tradable in the stock market with the guarantee of Ministry of Finance. The ministry indicated that the categories of bonds offering for trades are 1, 500,000 dinars with an annual interest rate of 6% for the period of 2 years, and the second, a bond of the category of 1 million dinars with an interest of 7% for a period of 4 years. The ministry clarified that the public wishing to purchase can submit their request through authorized banks. The ministry called on all investors and citizens to take advantage of this investment opportunity because it's returns for the benefit of borrow, the investor, and for the entire national economy, noting that the process of trading these bonds come in accordance with the plans of mechanisms of financial stability process and its improvement, in addition to positive economic effects representing by raising the level of economy activities for various sectors and enhancing the availability of broad development opportunities. Shafak News reported the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the State for Iraq and Iran, Jennifer Gavito, confirmed Thursday that her country's views with the great interest in its relations with the Kyrgyzstan region. This came during her reception and the accompanying delegation by Prime Minister of the Kyrgyzstan government, Mazhar Barzani, in Erbil. The regional government said in a statement received by Shafak News Agency that the situation in Iraq and relations between the Kyrgyzstan region and the United States took place in a meeting which was attended by the U.S. Consul General in the Kyrgyzstan regional, Robert Palladino. The U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State pointed to the importance and the special status of the Kyrgyzstan region as the United States views its relations with the region with great interest, and that her visit come to reaffirm America's support for the Kyrgyzstan region. For his part, the Prime Minister thanked the United States for its continuous support for the region and presented an overview of reforms undertaken by the Kyrgyzstan regional government to diversify sources of income and establishing a strong economic infrastructure. The two sides also dealt with the upcoming elections for the Iraqi parliament and the strategic dialogue between Iraq and America, as well as ways to confront terrorist threats. Baghdad Mwanzi News reports Wednesday Mustafa al-Qasimi announced his support for statements of the Supreme Religious Authorities regarding the upcoming elections. Al-Qasimi stated in a tweet via Twitter, which was followed by Mwanzi News, that we received with great responsibility the statement of amidst the Supreme Reference Mister. He added, "We affirmed the commitment of state institutions to protect the electoral process, and we call on candidates to abide by the laws and regulations, and voters to participate broadly and choose well." Speaking about elections, Baghdad Mwanzi News Parliament Speaker Mohammed al-Habassi stressed on Tuesday the importance of the international community role in monitoring the Iraqi elections to ensure their integrity. Al-Habassi's office said in a statement that Mwanzi News received a copy of, that the letter was received that the U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Iraq and Iran, Jennifer Gavito, and the U.S. Ambassador to Iraq, Matthew Tweller, and the meeting discussed the political situation in Iraq and early parliamentary elections. Al-Habassi stressed the great importance of the upcoming elections in shaping the future period in Iraq, pointing to the importance of the international community role in monitoring the Iraqi elections to ensure their integrity, and to create confidence among citizens by choosing their representative who expresses their admirations, and to motivate them from board participation. The meeting also discussed developments in the region and a number of issues of common interest. Economy News reports Baghdad, the price of Brent crude jumped on Tuesday above $80 for the first time in nearly 3 years, aimed expectations of rising demand and concerns about the supplies as the world slowly emerges from the crisis. Brent crude rose 8% in Asia morning, trading to 80.19 cents in the highest level since October 2018, according to the AFP. West Texas Intermediate crude also rose 9% to 76.07. Global supplies are tight due to the rapid recovery in fuel demand from the Delta outbreak and the Hurricane Ida, demanding the U.S. productions. Members of the organizations of the petroleum exporting countries, OPEC, and their allies, the groups known as OPEC Plus, are facing difficulties in increasing productions as the lack of investment continues and maintaining work is delayed due to the pandemic. The Central Bank of Iraq's Information Office Board of Directors of the Center for Banking Studies at the Central Bank held its second meeting for the year 2021. The meeting was chaired by Dr. Amar Khalaf, Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, with participation of all members. The council discussed topics on its agenda including report on activities of the Central Bank studies for the first half of 2021, nominations of the Vice Chairman of the Center Board of Directors in accordance with Article 4-3 of its law, authorizing the head of the Central Board of Directors to authorize training fees for those with specializations determined by the Center, and view a purpose version of Admin Law number 36 of 1999. The members of council praised the results achieved at the level of training course management and the percentages of their implementations, especially in the light of obstacles that the center faced during the year of the result of the corona pandemic. Economy news. Baghdad reported on Monday the International Islamic Bank announced its merger with the First Capital Islamic Bank and raised its capital to 260.8 billion dinars. The International Islamic Bank said on its Facebook page that the procedures for increasing the capital of its International Islamic Bank to 260.8 billion dinars has been completed. He added that this merger of the First Capital Islamic Bank with the International Islamic Bank was approved, provided that the latter retains its legal capacity, name, and activity. On Sunday, Al-Fret News Foreign Minister Hussein discussed the evening with a member of the National Security Council of the White House Coordinator for the Middle East and North Africa, Brett McCork, stepped to implement the American withdrawal from Iraq. This came during his reception at his residence in New York. McCork and the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, Yael Lambert, on the sidelines of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. He added, during the meeting, they discussed bilateral relations between Iraq and the United States of America, especially the military and security relations, and the mechanisms for implementing the steps that we're adopting during the Strategic Dialogue session, as well as regional situations in the region, current developments in it, and the Iraq relations within the country of the region. Hassan asserted McCork and Yael Lambert expressed their appreciations for the efforts made by the Iraq to promote peace and stability in the regions, praising the efforts and initiatives undertaken by Iraq through the Baghdad Conference for Corporations and Partnerships. The statement continued. The meeting also touched base on U.S.-Iranian relations and their efforts on relations between the countries of the region under the new Iranian and U.S. administration. I'm Chella. You've been watching Newsroom Weekly Review, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news. I'm here every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Don't forget to subscribe now and share this video if you like my content. I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. It's Friday, thank God. I'll see you guys next Friday. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you again for watching. Take care. Make sure you join us Fridays, 4 p.m. with Newsroom Updates with Chella Smith, Entertainment News. And don't forget us on Sundays for What's Cooking in the Kitchen. You can also find us behind the scenes 24/7 on Snapchat.